Alright, now welcome to lesson 2. More about simplifying fractions. This is where y'all gonna be saying, yay! Man, I'm so happy that you made me do all of these factor rainbows. It makes simplifying fractions so much easier. It makes comparing fractions so much easier. It makes finding equivalent fractions so much easier. So, in advance, you're welcome for making you do factor rainbows. So, let's go over some vocabulary again. Remember, the common factor is a factor that has two or more numbers in common. Simplest form, when the numerator and the denominator have no common factors other than 1. Remember, that's important. And then remember, also simplest form is finding the equivalent fraction with the smallest numerator and denominator, or reduce the number of parts without changing what the fraction represents. Remember, that's important. And then the greatest common factor is the largest factor two numbers have in common. So let's look at trying to simplify 4/10. So the first thing I'm going to do, I already have this one drawn, is I'm going to shade in 4/10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember what I did the last time. That right now I have 10 equal parts. Well, let's say that I want to look at each one of these two pieces. Let's say that I want to just put those two pieces together and just now make one part. But remember, inside of this one part right here, inside of this one part, I have two pieces. Now, if I want to find another part that's equal to this part right here, I look at this one, and I can see that this part will be the same size as this part right here. And inside of that part, I have two other smaller pieces that when I put those smaller pieces together, it still takes up the same amount of space as that one piece. Now again, I look, this part is the same as these other two parts right here. The same thing here. Okay? And, wow, do I use all my colors yet? No. And then here. So what I can say, I'm just going to write a little note for myself. So that's for every 2/10, comma, there is 1/5. So if I reduce the number of parts from 10 to 5, that means that 4/10 is also the same thing as saying 2/5, because 1/2 of those parts that I condensed and made it into 5 parts instead of 10. So I reduced the size, I simplified the size of that fraction. It still represents the same thing, but I simplified and I reduced the number of parts. And now I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. If I'm looking at this whole part right here. Okay? Now, let's go and let's do the other math that goes with it. So we're looking for the GCF, right? We have 4 and we have 10. So we need to find factor rainbows. 1 and 4, 2 and 2. So factors of 4 is 1, 2, 4. Then 10, 1 times 10, then 2 times 5. Then the factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, 10. Now, what is the greatest common factor between 4 and 10, where the greatest common factor is 2. So the GCF is 2. Now, remember, when we are simplifying fractions, we are using division. Because remember, we're trying to reduce or change the size of the parts without changing what the fraction means. So we're going to take 4/10. We're going to divide the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2, because remember, we don't want to change what the fraction represents. So whatever we do to the numerator, we have to do the same thing to the denominator. That way, I'm going to say it again, we do not change what the fraction represents. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And that is 2/5. And if we scroll back up, that does match with what we came up with using our picture. And that is the end of our lesson on simplifying fractions.